Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jessica Alexander of Operation Evolve. Jessica, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. Before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Jessica, so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And Jessica is a brand strategist, author, speaker, and the founder of Operation Evolve and Boss Babes Brunch Tour. This Montgomery, Alabama native was motivated to start her business after struggling to connect with her dream career and purpose after graduating from college. She eventually found her lane in branding and marketing, leading several companies, international brands such as Verizon, Nissan, Windows, and Diageo. In 2016, she founded Operation Evolve and has empowered thousands across the country to gain clarity, discover their passions, and walk in their purpose. Jessica, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Am ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. So to kick everything off, I wanted to kind of rewind the clock and take us back to 2016 or even further back. Tell us a little bit more about your CEO story. We'll let you get started with the business.
Okay, we're not going to go to 2016. We're going to go all the way back to 2012.
Okay.
Actually, we'll go to 2011. So you read in my bio that I didn't get my dream job. So I was set for graduation in 2011. And in my time at college, I went to Auburn University and I worked in the recruiting department for the football team. So I spent a lot of time in athletics. I interned with the marketing department. So after college, I knew I wanted to work in sports because I loved it. And I actually had a job opportunity, an interview opportunity with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I was so excited, went down, had my interview. I thought I killed it. And I apparently did not kill it as much as I thought because I was not offered the position. But I was one of those stubborn old millennials who was like, no, I'm going to wait around and get my dream job. And I'll just, I was working at Olive Garden during college. I was like, I'll just work here until never came. So I found myself just like, okay, well, let me just work at this car dealership. Now, the logic for all of this is completely off. So it's like, let me work at this car dealership and I'll just pass the time. And it was horrible. I was a terrible car salesperson because going back and forth with you over throwing in extra $1,000, I wasn't trying to do all that. Like, you either want the car or you don't. So I actually, in that moment while I was working at the car dealership was when I was in my cubicle and I was like, you know what? I have so much more to bring to the table in my life as far as, being productive and being a professional is concerned. So I had the vision for Operation Evolve in the cubicle. At the time, my goal was to create programming for college, high school, and middle schoolers, just so that they could have a lot more clarity and focus when it came to their personal and professional lives. And I got so excited about it. I quit the car dealership and just started sharing this vision with people. And that's when all the questions started coming in, like, well, how are you going to do it? Who's going to support it? And I had a lot of doubt, a lot of fear moving forward. So I actually put Operation Evolve on the back burner for years. A year later, I started working in branding and event marketing and leading these different campaigns with the companies you listed like Verizon and Nissan. But, I still had that vision for Operation Evolve in the back of my head. But 2016 was like my breakout year and where I just decided to put all that fear behind me and move forward. And that's when I started going full force with Operation Evolve and Boss Babes Brunch.
Awesome. Well, definitely.
Sense, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome because it's so funny because I always saw myself working in sports and I got my master's in sports industry management and things like that. And I always thought that I was be working in sports, but I think sometimes those closed doors present other open doors that sometimes we don't even see. And if we just stop being, I won't say it's just you, it's definitely me being those stubborn millennials where we can kind of see those open doors and we can kind of walk through it and step through our gifts and our passions.
Exactly. Like, it's so important to, perspective is everything. So even when you think something bad has happened to you, you have to see that there's, there are other open doors that are going to be there for you. It's going to help you push you further along your purpose journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to drill down a little bit deeper. Can you take us through a little bit more about what you're doing with Operation Evolve and Boss Babes Brunch Tour as well?
Yes, so Operation Evolve has done exactly what the name says, and it has evolved. I started out doing a lot of community-focused events. It's a for-profit company, like we're filed as an LLC, but I did a lot of community-focused events. But what I found was that my experience in leading these different campaigns for these companies with these huge budgets really gave me a lot of industry insight for entrepreneurs that most smaller businesses didn't have. So what I started doing was taking all that information and all of the different tools and knowledge that these brands use to grow their business and get themselves positioned in front of their target audience. I now teach that to newer entrepreneurs who are, 5 or less years of business. And I do that through one-on-one coaching. I have digital resources, and then also I do it through live events, which is where Boss Babes Brunch Tour comes into play. And so basically, Boss Babes Brunch Tour is the premier networking and empowerment brunch for women entrepreneurs, creatives, and leaders. And in 2016, I started the event mainly because in my hometown of Montgomery, Alabama, there just wasn't really too many opportunities for women who look like me to get tools and resources to grow their brand. And with the city being like a small, big city, a lot of times trying to grow your business and network and connect comes down to who is in your current network. So it made it really difficult to get through a few doors. But even with knowing that, I knew that there were a lot of people who they needed the information, they needed the network, they needed that safe space where they could grow and develop their brand. So that's why I started the event in 2016, and it grew from 2016 to 2017. And in 2018, I had a crazy idea of just driving across the country and hosting the event in several cities. So I had 2 events in Alabama, and in May, I just packed up all of my stuff into my Altima and started driving across the country, and I hosted it in 24 different cities.
Awesome. No, I absolutely love that. It's so funny when you just you start out with kind of like an idea of what you want to create, and then you start to create it. And sometimes I always say the best things are kind of created for ourselves, and then once you create it for yourself, you find out so many other people need it and they flock to it, and you get to be in 40 or 24 other cities in 1 year as well too.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, as I was driving, that was like the one thing I realized. Like, it didn't even matter if I was in the South or in the Midwest or out West or wherever, like, there are people, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship and especially when it comes to Black women entrepreneurs, with that being the fastest growing demographic, is that, even with that statistic, there's also another stat out there saying that a lot of the Black women-owned businesses are the #1 businesses that are shutting down. So, if you don't have those tools and you don't have the resources and you don't have the network and you feel alone and you feel like you have to do everything by yourself, then, a lot of times it's easier just to, call it quits and go back to, your old job or go back to something that's a little more comfortable and a lot less stressful, because entrepreneur can be a lot sometimes.
Yeah, it very often is, and it's definitely like a roller coaster ride to say the least. And I think that, as you said, I mean, having those resources or even knowing about the resources that are available to us, I think is definitely, huge. But definitely, that kind of networking relationship piece that you talked about as well too is huge, because I think anytime you go through any difficulty, but especially, when you're running a business and doing those things, you feel like you're by yourself. You feel like you're the only one that made that mistake or did, so-and-so, or don't know how to price yourself, all these different things.
Right.
But to be able to lean on a community and say, I'm not the only one, and this, maybe even hear from somebody how they figured it out is definitely a huge thing.
Exactly. And that's why, like, when it comes to the events, a lot of grievances that I hear with women saying that they go to these events and they just hear people talking about their success story and just, now I'm a millionaire. And it's just like, I want to hear the tools, like, give me the step by step. So, at every single event, I always say that it's more than mimosas at Boss Babes Brunch Tour. We make sure that we have speakers and workshops and, even vendors who have tools and resources and experience to share that's going to be applicable, like, the very next day. Like, you should be able to go home from Boss Babes Brunch Tour event and be able to implement at least 3 things to help you grow your brand.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge is being able to, of course, hear the success, but be able to get kind of like the roadmap of that success too, because you
Right.
can't always guarantee success, but you can get yourself as close as possible to being successful, and knowing about those tools, having that network and being
Right.
able to lean on experts like yourself is definitely a great way to do that. So
Absolutely.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to ask you now for what I call your secret sauce, and this could be for you personally or your brands, but what do you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique?
I think that what makes me unique is that my mom always called me growing up a jack of all trades, master of all. Even though it says master of none, she'll always say master of all. And I'll say like from growing up, I've always had my hands in different things. I like the fact that I'm an entrepreneur, like I wouldn't have even guessed it as a child. I grew up as a musician, like I play piano and clarinet, and I sing just enough to get me by. But that was like what I did growing up. And I even in college and even up until now, I spend a lot of my time on stage, whether it be performing, whether it be in pageants. And then even when I started working on these different brand campaigns, I focused on so many different demographics. So when it comes to me engaging with clients and when it comes to me working with people, I feel like the thing that sets me apart is the fact that I've had experience in so many different industries. And one of the things that I appreciate most about myself is just the ability to communicate with anyone. You know, regardless if you're 5 or 95, I feel like there's a common thread that ties everyone together. And one of my main focuses throughout this life has always been to find the missing piece or the piece that connects me to another person. Because I just think that we all have so many different parallels and, you know, as different as we might think we are, that there's always one common thread that ties us together. So that's why I like working with so many different people, but just bringing that in addition to my industry experience is what sets me apart from my clients.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And I think, yeah, a lot of times when you sit down and you talk with somebody, you really drill down and have conversation, you realize how similar and alike we are rather than kind of like the
Right.
differences that we often will sometimes hear or see. But I think that's huge. And I don't know if you feel this, but I always felt like some of the best entrepreneurs are people that are able to or have experience in so many different ways, because I think when you're able to look at, you know, a problem or solve that problem, you're not just looking kind of like from a one-way vantage point. You're looking from all those different experiences, and it only helps you be able to
Exactly.
kind of be more creative.
Right. Right.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask
Okay.
you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have. Might be some of those tools of the trade you mentioned before, but what do you feel kind of helps make you more effective and efficient?
Well, I like I shared with you, because I do like to do a lot of things. I'm one of the people who constantly has several projects going on, and I, you know, can find myself like having an idea and having a million ideas in a week and feeling like I need to execute all of them at once. So what I've learned is to just kind of draw things back and be realistic about my timelines, but also is to dedicate some focused time throughout the day. Now, I have not gotten my system 1000% perfect because I am a work in progress, but one thing I have learned that has helped me be extremely efficient was just assigning the minutes of the day to, to certain tasks.
Mm,
So instead of me just, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you can make your own schedule. They say that, but you need to at least make sure that you make a schedule. Like I know that some people have times where they're more efficient, more effective, more alert. And there are other people who can just do like 9 to 5. But for me, what I found is creating a daily to-do list, creating weekly goals, monthly goals. But mainly with my daily list is literally blocking out time. So like I know if I wake up, like I know my morning routine is essentially the same. I wake up, you know, read a devotional, meditate, have some tea, journal, then I'll go into my workout. But I assign like, you know, 30 to 45 minutes for that. I assign my time for my workout. So I know at 8 o'clock, I'll be doing this for X amount of minutes. And I highly suggest that people start blocking their time out and also being realistic about the time it takes to complete certain tasks. Like I know for me, because I do have a couple different things I'm working on underneath Operation Evolve. I know I can't schedule social media for 5 accounts in an hour for the week. Like I just know it's not feasible, not in an hour. So I have to be realistic with my time and either decide that I'm just going to do it an hour a day and break it up throughout the week, or I'm going to dedicate an entire block to it. And so I would say do that. And then also for those of you who who get distracted easily by Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and TikTok and all the other apps. There's an app that I use called Flora. It's spelled Flora. And basically what it does is that you can assign amount of time to it. So let's say 25 minutes because you want to dedicate that to writing, whatever. And it blocks your phone off and it grows a tree. But if you go out of the app, it kills the tree. And who wants to kill trees? Not me. So So basically, I use that and it helps me stay off of Instagram and just dedicate some focused time because I'm one of those who can be on Instagram for a minute.
No, that makes so much sense. And it's funny because I'm really big. I think most entrepreneurial people that have many ideas and want to kind of create and are super creative always kind of can lean on being able to do those things, the time block, to be able to have those routines in your day and your morning and so on and so forth to help to make you success. And I think that I've read something where like the systems and the processes, sometimes we think that we don't want to work in them, but they actually will set you free. So having those, make sure you know what you're doing to get to those weekly, monthly, yearly goals. And then you have that kind of like that freedom to be able to do those other things. But and I love that. And of course I love that other app as well too, because who does want to kill trees? And there's nothing like that visual reminder to make you dial into what you're supposed to be doing as
Exactly.
well. Awesome. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. So this could be a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client, maybe around brand strategy, or it might even be something, if you hopped into a time machine, you tell your younger business self.
All right. Now, this is actually my quote, and it is, you don't have to know every step. You just have to take one. And I wrote a book in 2017 called Boss Up, Pursue Your Purpose with Confidence. And that's a quote that I use in the book, mainly because I think that with social media and just with overall just pride as human beings, we want everything to be perfect and we want everything to look perfect and we want the right font and color and all the things. But unfortunately, like, it's not always going to work out that way. So instead of me getting so overwhelmed with getting from step A to step Z, I find it a lot more effective to just worry about getting from A to B and just trust in the process to get you there. And then once you're at B, then you can move on to C. But just don't get overwhelmed trying to figure everything out when you first get started. Like, you know, when I started Boss Babes Brunch Tour, the majority of the cities on my list I had never traveled to in my entire life. Like, I spent the majority of my adult life or my entire life in Alabama. But, you know, I didn't know how to put together my own tour. I just went for it. I learned along the way. I made mistakes, but I also have tons of success. And when you just decide to go for it instead of waiting for everything to get perfect, you'll develop a level of confidence along the way that will help you continue along the journey. So
yes, I absolutely love that. And, you know, there's no such, well, I should usually say there's no such thing as perfection. And I think that so many times we get caught up in making sure that everything's perfect and all the things in a line that we never, ever actually take that action. And I think that, you know, you spoke to something that I found out, which was, you know, phenomenal. When you read about a lot of the quote unquote successful people, however you define success, you automatically think that they just started out and they started walking on water and they had everything in line. But in reality, it took some of those bumps in the road. It took them taking action, though, that really led them to the success that they have. So we kind of remind ourselves of that, you know, even if it's imperfect action, it's action nevertheless, and we can learn from it.
Yeah, I agree. And when you're saying that, one thing that really kept me encouraged during my first tour was one of my favorite podcasts that I discovered in 2018 was How I Built This. It's an NPR podcast. I really suggest that for a lot of new CEOs, a lot of new founders, because like listening to these stories of people who, you know, I think they have like the founders of Airbnb. I think they have one with the founders of Instagram. Just a lot of different successful founders who started and made mistakes and, you know, almost filed for bankruptcy. They got scammed. Like, you'll hear all these different stories. And, you know, when you're able to find out that other people were able to keep going despite mistakes and despite, you know, any other issue, then it should give you enough encouragement to take it to the next day or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of speaks to what we were kind of talking about in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes you feel like you're by yourself. But if you listen to these super successful CEOs and founders and you're like, okay, well, they went through all of that. Then if I go through something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the finish line or the end of the road because it wasn't for them. Then it doesn't necessarily have to be for me
Right.
either.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Jessica, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Being a CEO means, to me, means stepping out and doing something out of the norm, being a leader in your industry, being a risk taker, and being someone who wants to lead an organization, lead people in a way that better impacts their community and better impacts their industry.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times it takes that courage and that boldness, for lack of a better word, to be able to see those changes. And I think, as you said and spoke to, that leadership aspect is sometimes you're not going to see the path and see the steps, as you said, so eloquently in your quote. A lot of times you just got to take the action and then you'll start to see and blaze those trails that other people will follow you.
Right.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, Jessica, truly appreciate that definition. I appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
All right. Well, I'll start with the last part. You can get in touch with me on Instagram, Jessica C. Alexander. Also, you can visit operationevolve.com just to get some information about upcoming courses, upcoming events, probably more virtual because COVID,
Yes.
but just can go and find out all the information about events, classes, and also how to schedule a consultation with me. And just see about all Operation Evolve has going on. We're doing a lot.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we'll definitely have the links and information in the show notes. And I truly appreciate you and all the awesome things you're doing. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
All right. And I'll cut it off here. Hello, hello, hello. Again, this is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I just had a phenomenal interview with Jessica Alexander of Operation Evolve. We talked about so many different things from branding to purpose, and she's doing so many phenomenal things. What I wanted to do was just kind of have you back on so you can provide additional information, and bonus content for our listeners and our readers. So before we jumped in, I wanted to just have you and give you the opportunity to introduce yourself again. Could you tell us a little bit more about you, Jessica, and what you do?
Sure. Hey y'all, my name is Jessica Alexander. I'm the founder of Operation Evolve, and what we do is we just help you connect your purpose with a sound brand strategy. And I have been really fortunate to work with women across the country through our signature event, Boss Babes Brunch Tour, and also impacting people through my book, Boss Up, Pursue Your Purpose with Confidence. I just wanted to share some additional information when it comes to purpose and when it comes to strategy with you all today. And what I found is that in speaking with so many women and men across the country, so many people are really set on this purpose and this passion idea. And unfortunately, the one thing that holds a lot of people back is having that sound strategy. In fact, it's what held me back when I first started out. When I started out, I had this idea. I was working at a car dealership during the day and working at Olive Garden at night, and had this great idea pop into my head. I see the vision for it. I can physically, like in my mind, see myself on the stage. I can see myself working with people, but I just didn't see the pathway there. So what I realized is that getting myself from point A to point B was the most important thing. And before I go into some tips on how to solidify and create a solid brand strategy, there's 4 things I want to share as you're on your journey to pursuing your purpose, which could come in the form of entrepreneurship or whatever it is. But as an entrepreneur, the 4 things that you have to keep in your mind as you're moving forward is, the first is that you do have a purpose for it. And I know that a lot of people who have these passion projects, they let their purpose lead the way. But sometimes when things aren't coming together, you might not think that it's actually for you. So when you're able to get in touch with your true purpose and who it is you're called to be, then that should give you the confidence to start taking the initial steps. So realize that you have a purpose and that you are called to do it, and that you're not, you're not here to give up. You're not here to just let it go when things don't work out. So just realize and connect with that purpose and let that lead and let that guide you and let that inspire you, because there will be bumps along the way, which takes me to the next thing that you need to focus on, which is your attitude. Because during this process, there's a quote that they used to tell us in grade school, that your attitude determines your altitude. Mm-hmm. And as you're on this journey, there are going to be things that you will react to, and your reaction to them will determine what your next steps are going to be. So one thing that I will encourage you to do as you're on this journey is to understand that things aren't happening to you, they're happening for you. So even if it's a mistake, even if you fall on your face, even if you're embarrassed, even if you have that bad customer review, we are in charge of how we react and how we respond to everything. So your attitude is going to be everything, and this at all points of your business. And if you're able to keep the attitude of, it's not happening to me, I'm not going to crumble, I'm not going to fall, but I'm going to stand strong, and I'm going to learn what I need to learn from this mistake or the success, and I'm going to be even better for my company, for my team, for my family, and for my community. So your attitude is everything. The next thing is being confident in what you've been called to do, confident in your purpose, and confident even when you don't know every single step. No one wants to buy a car from someone that doesn't drive. I don't know. They're not purchasing that car. But they're going to purchase the car from the person who can tell you everything about it, knows the specs. And the thing is that while you are starting out, especially for those of you who have been in business for less than 5 years, there's a lot that you probably don't know. But that doesn't negate the fact that you have expertise in certain things. One of the biggest lessons I learned from a mentor of mine was that I'm not just an anything. So I'm not just a waitress. I'm not just a secretary trying to just sell a couple of things here and there. But I have a certain skill set, even though it may not be the highest skill set at that time, that there's somebody who needs the knowledge that I have. And if I'm confident in myself and I'm confident in the fact that I have expertise, even though there are other people who might have more experience than me, may have been on more stages, may have sold more products, may have sold more books, I still am an expert in my own lane. So I have to remain confident in that. And then the last one is not a business thing, but it's more so just a life thing. And that's just be kind, because kindness will get you into more doors. It says it's easier to attract bees with honey than with vinegar. That might be the completely wrong way to say that quote, but just roll with me, y'all. But yeah, it's so much easier. And what I've found over the years is that not only when I'm kind, but when I'm honest about what it is that I need. So I guess that's a bonus. It's just asking for what you need. Then I'm able to attract the people who want to help me. If you don't mind, I'll tell a quick story.
Yeah, please do.
So I remember, this is year one. I'm driving across the country like a crazy woman. And I go to Denver. This is my first time there, but I got there the week of the event. I literally had no venue. No venue, no food, no nothing. And it just so happened, and I put that in air quotes because I truly don't believe in coincidence, but it just so happened that when I got to Denver, it was Denver Startup Week, which is a huge week for entrepreneurs out in the area. So I'm like, literally, like everything is, nothing's by happenstance, but I'm just like kind of shook that this happening. So I'm walking past the library downtown Denver, and I just see a sign for it. I look it up on my phone, registered, boom. And I go to this one event, because they have so many different events. So I just so happened to go to this event. It was hosted by this organization, and it was an all-women's event, like right where I needed to be. Connected with some people, and I was just so happened to be waiting next to the restroom for somebody, and these two women, actually like three women, they're like, oh my gosh, come over here and sit in my section. And I was like, okay. And I was telling them about Boss Babes Brunch tour. I was telling them about what I was working on. And they're like, well, where are you having it? And I was just like, I actually do not have a venue, so if you have any suggestions, like, I really need to find something ASAP because this event is in 4 days. So she was like, oh, have it at our co-working space. It's an all women's co-working space. We'll get you in there. And that was it.
Wow.
So I just think that like everything is so connected. When you follow purpose, when you have the right attitude, when you're confident in what you are, when you're kind to those around you, the things that you need are going to fall into place. And that is not the only story I have like that of me being an entrepreneur, me being on Boss Babes Brunch tour over the past few years. So I think that whenever you're able to just combine those things together and truly walk in it and be okay with the journey, just enjoy the journey, then that's what it is. So the acronym was PACK. So just in case anyone wants to remember, it's we're a journey, so we got to pack first. So just remember your purpose, have a great attitude, be confident in who you are, and be kind to those around you.
Awesome. I absolutely love that, Jessica. And I appreciate you for telling the story. And this is so powerful. I think that's one of the big things that came up during the interview is that you get so much power by hearing that you're not the only one. So I think there might be people that are listening to this, reading our site that don't know how to take that next step and want to have everything laid out and planned out before they take those next steps. But there's so much power in understanding to pack, before you go on that journey, to understand these are the things that need to be in place. And maybe everything is not always aligned when you take that first step. But often if you're aligned with your purpose and you're doing all those things in the acronym, then you will see that success sometimes in ways we never thought that we would.
Right. That's just like my biggest thing is that everything that you need, you already have right now. And if you're able to just be okay with that and move forward, you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to drill down a little bit deeper on that. You said everything you need, you already have right now. I feel like there's so much that's out there that's telling you that you don't have this or you need to have that. But it sounds like what you're saying is complete kind of opposite of that, where you're saying a lot of what we are looking at externally for, we actually already have internally inside to take those steps.
Right. I mean, we live in a really great time for entrepreneurship. We have resources and tools that are free, that are extremely affordable for us to start. That doesn't mean you're not going to stay. What you use to start is not what you're going to use to finish, right? So like when I first started Boss Babes Brunch Tour, I literally had like $1 and a dream, a car. My car was packed with stuff. I didn't have as much working knowledge of tours. Like I've like led tours for different brands, but I've never done my own. So like I had a different set of information that I have in 2020, but that wasn't going to stop me from moving forward, So a lot of people think that, oh, I got to take this class or I need to do this. And there are some things that you will have to do along the way. But if I'm just going to say, well, I can't do it now because I don't have it all together. Like if I want to be a doctor, I have my bachelor's, but like I know I need a little bit more education before I can get that MD next to my name. So that doesn't mean that, well, I'll never be a doctor. It means that I figure out what my next step is. My next step might be, enrolling into school or taking the whatever test I need to take. But like for right now, where you are, you already have everything you need to start. You'll get more along the way, but you have to start now. Or, just a cautionary tale to someone, don't be the person waking up and you're looking on Instagram and all of a sudden that product or service that you have been putting on the back burner is under somebody else's account.
Yes.
Now you're looking like boo-boo fool. Nobody wants that.
You're absolutely right. It's almost like I always say there's sometimes no worse feeling or fear than the fear of regret. And I think a lot of times we have fear when we're starting stuff. How am I going to do this? How am I going to figure this out? But as you said, if you see somebody doing exactly what you had the vision for, what was, as we talked about, given to you a lot so that you can produce and manifest in the world, and you don't do that, that is probably one of the worst feelings that you can ever have.
Right.
I definitely echo that. And nobody does want to be boo-boo the fool. So
no one.
I appreciate that. Well, awesome. Jessica, truly appreciate all the awesome things that you're doing and your time even more. For people that are just listening to this aspect, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you? How do they find out about the tours? And of course, get a copy of your book.
You can find everything on operationevolve.com. You can find out about Boss Babes Brunch Tour. You can find out about me. You can link to my social media pages, but on Instagram and Facebook, Jessica C. Alexander. and also Operation Evolve and Boss Babes Brunch Store. We're everywhere. So just go to operationevolve.com. That's the easiest place to find everything. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you and hope that you can find something on the site that's going to help you get along your purpose in your entrepreneur journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Jessica. We will have the links and information in the show notes, and so that everybody can follow you in all the places that they want to be. Truly appreciate you again for your time, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. You too.